This is Alcohol Freedom Finders. This week we're joined by Lori McGiven, a fellow alcohol freedom coach from Vermont, where she's also part of the medical examiner's death investigation team. At 40, Lori realised she had an issue with her drinking and struggled to break free. Discover how she navigated her journey towards alcohol freedom. Lori shares the transformation from feeling powerless and overwhelmed to finding joy, freedom, and fulfillment in life. Watch to learn about the profound impact it had on her relationships and the empowerment that comes from truly understanding and addressing your relationship with alcohol. Welcome everybody. Today we're really excited to have with us Lori McGiven, a fellow This Naked Mind alcohol freedom coach. Lori is from Vermont, and we're really looking forward to hearing her story and getting to know her a little bit more.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here today. I'm excited to tell my story.
Why don't we start there then? Why don't we start with what led you to becoming alcohol-free? Take us back to not to the beginning, but to the moment where you thought, this isn't serving me quite how I thought it might.
Yeah, I know that. I would say I was probably in my early 40s, and I was realizing that I was using alcohol actually to relax. So it felt different to me because I no longer was just having a glass of wine here or there. I was actually coming home depending on that alcohol, like really wanting that alcohol to relax. And it became the focus of my evening rather than my family, other things that I had going on. So I knew that was becoming an issue for me at that point.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people will relate to, that you're used to alcohol being there in the good times when you're younger, but we are shown that through society that it is the thing after a hard day's work. That's what you do to make transition into the evening and to relax, and it'll do that job. But that sort of giving it that job to do can become something that it worms its way in and becomes more and more important. And then so what was your next step? What it's great to when you have that awareness. It can be quite scary when you get that awareness. Oh yes, that's becoming really important. So what was your next step?
Yeah, so my husband was also drinking like I was. So he was coming home, drinking after work. We both had really stressful jobs. So it was something we shared together. And so we both decided, okay, we talked a lot about decreasing our alcohol intake. And so we tried different things. We thought that we would just drink on the weekends and not drink every night. We started that, and we would last maybe until maybe just Tuesday. Like Monday, I'd get through it. Tuesday, I'd come home, and he'd look at me, and he'd be like, okay, what is it tonight? And that's all it took. Just that little bit or it would be me saying something to him, what are you doing tonight? So we'd be back to drinking again. And so we tried that several times. In our weekends, if we drank just on weekends, we'd start on Thursday. So it'd be like, okay, we can include Thursday as a weekend, and Sunday's always part of the weekend. But I realized that wasn't really working for us, and we weren't committing. But again, we were really, we were talking about it. So we were both in line. And one day I was on the internet and saw This Naked Mind, and it really resonated with me because my background is in science and medicine, and so I thought this really makes sense to me. I didn't understand what it was, but it made sense. I did the 5-day challenge and then signed up for the path through This Naked Mind.
Amazing. Two things stood out to me there. First of all, I feel you're so blessed to have it as a shared experience, because some of the shame around alcohol is because it's such a lonely pursuit to get into that trap of depending on the alcohol every day. So, amazing that you shared that with your husband and it wasn't a secret, but also how difficult if you've got two enablers going on. It's like impossible then for willpower to be the thing. So it needs to be something like This Naked Mind, which we'll get into in a bit. But the thing I just wanted to touch on as well, that all three of us, and I'm sure lots of our audience, it's that mid-40s thing What is it? What is it? What are the secret ingredients about the mid-40s that make it a perfect storm for alcohol, insidious nature, to really embed itself into our values about feeling better? Is it the fact that we've already got the house, the kids, the jobs, and we're searching for the meaning, for searching for some kind of elevation? Is it that, or is it that the marketing is so clever to our age group, or is it that we think we are now free of being crazy drunk on a night out, that we're middle class civilized? This is what we do. What do you think it is, Lori?
Yeah, I love this question, and I have done a lot of reflection on this. So I do think it seemed like the next thing to do. I'll just be honest. It seemed like people around me my age were going home at night and drinking, and that seemed to normalize it for me. The other piece that changed for both my husband and I is that our jobs, we were in positions that required a lot more work and stress, and our jobs were becoming more stressful. And so I think we found that alcohol just seemed like the go-to for us. And yes, I think there's a lot that happens in your 40s. There's a lot of life changes, and your children are growing older. Your parents are getting older. There's a lot more responsibility. And again, for us, there was a lot more stress at work, and we both can almost pinpoint it to that. I'm not blaming it on work, really pinpointing that we were both under a lot of stress during that time.
Yeah, I think, I can certainly relate to that as well. That for me, it was, you are at home in the evenings a lot when you have kids. Maybe more, you have maybe slightly less of a social life, or if you do, it's going from one to another set of parents' houses. And so it's, for me, I think any addiction, any kind of compulsive behavior is and can be triggered by a situation. And once you bring in more situations, once it becomes more normal to do these things in the home environment, or as a sort of thing when you get home from work, or if stress is something you think, you deserve a relief from, and the relief, obviously everyone deserves a relief from stress, but you start using alcohol as that relief, then that situation, it's going to be there every time. In your subconscious is going to be calling out for that relief, that relief from stress each time you come home from a stressful day. Okay. And so, no, I mean, you still haven't said how did it, after that, how did it go? How did the path help you? And did your husband do the path as well? Or how did that pan out?
My husband did not do the path, so I chose to do that. I drank, I think, I was trying to figure this out, for about 60 days or so while I was on the path, and while I was absorbing all the information. And I did do a deep dive into the material because it's just who I am, right? I loved all the information that I was getting. And I would actually say probably about 40 days into it, I started to lose the desire to drink. And I knew I was losing that desire, but I kept drinking because I knew we had a deadline. By a certain time, we were all going to break together. And so I'm drinking up to that last moment. I already had it in my head. I'm drinking up to that last moment. And honestly, I could have, just to back up, that just goes to show you how strong the mind is, right? And how strong it can really take over what your body's telling you. My body was already telling me, you don't need this. And I just wasn't listening to those cues. But when we did take the break, I was done. And it was not hard. And my husband actually did the break with me, which I was surprised. I didn't ask him to do that. He just stopped drinking with me for it was initially a 30-day break. And at one point, he looked at me and he was like, this isn't hard for you at all, is it? And I said, no, not at all. I was ready for it. And it's like, again, it's the type of person I am. I needed that information. I needed to understand how alcohol was affecting my body, how come I was having cravings, what that meant. And once I started to understand that piece of it and really pay attention, the attention was a big part of it too. Like I would journal how I was feeling before I drank, while I drank. That made a huge difference. once I understood it, it took the desire right away. I mean, it completely removed it. And so he stuck with me for the 30 days. And after 30 days, I was just done. And I just told him, I have no desire to drink. I'm not going to start drinking again. He did start again, but not like he was. He would drink occasionally, and he still will drink occasionally, but he mostly does not drink. He'll drink, yeah, every so often, but not much. And we don't really have alcohol in the house. We have some alcohol in the house, but not much, not anything that like we had before.
A couple of things really stand out to me with that, Lori. Is the power of that ripple effect. When we make personal change, we do good things for ourselves, good things happen in the world. That's pretty much how I run my show these days. And the same thing happened to me, and the same thing happened to Barry. Most of our partners, even if they weren't, our partners been as big a drinkers, that minor can completely stop. Same with you, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But what also stood out to me there is that the power we talk about in the work of cognitive dissonance, and what we're talking about there is the two parts of the brain, one part of the brain, the subconscious telling you must do this, and the conscious part of your brain going, no, you don't, vice versa. And what you're talking about just there, that with the work, you were able to observe yourself in cognitive dissonance. You could observe yourself going, so curious. I don't need this as much as I thought I did. But the other part of you going, but I'm going to drink right up until the minute. So it's like, and you saw those two partners even play. So that brings me to, why do you think this methodology is so successful for you and for others?
Yeah, I really believe in this. And of course, because I tell people I'm the example and I can speak to it because I just feel it. And I do think that we need to address the underlying issues or the underlying beliefs that we have around alcohol or whatever it is. For me, it was alcohol and food. So the two of those went together and I worked with them together. So addressing and questioning yourself and questioning your beliefs around a substance and what it means to you, I think it just brings it to the forefront, and it does make you better understand it and question yourself. I did it a lot, and it really removed a lot of the beliefs that I had, like alcohol relaxes me. It did for the moment, but then it just caused a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of just terrible feelings in my body. And when I stopped drinking, all of that went away. So yes, for a moment it might relax you, but it really didn't. And I've gone back through my journal to look, and you can see after about 2 drinks, that's when I was starting to feel really terrible, like just not feeling well, feeling anxious, increased pulse, those type of things. So
Yeah, that's really interesting to look back and realize. And I think what you touched on there, the difference that our approach has to over drinking is, if you look at the sort of traditional method, it's all about not doing the thing, not doing the drinking, and doing whatever you can to not do the drinking. Whereas our approach is, as you said, you continued during this program and continue drinking while you're learning about the truth, the science, the psychology, the 3 sort of sides to alcohol that can keep us drinking: the substance, the societal pressure, and self reasons that, like the stress. And once you understand that, I often call it's the illusion. It does feel like it's doing its job. Does it feel like it's cheering you up or relaxing you? But when you understand the net effect, the science will show you that your body's reaction to it will be the opposite, and you'll end up lowering your baseline of relaxation and increasing the cortisol, and all the other stress hormones that are in your body will be on alert during the day because it's expecting you to try and push them down again at night. And once you start to see the reality and understand the science, the alcohol itself loses its power. And I think that there are other methodologies that comes to mind that Alan Carr about, with cigarettes. He It encourages people to keep smoking all the way through reading the book. And by the end of he takes away all the reasons that you wanted to smoke. He debunks everything. And that's how our approach is to debunk the idea that alcohol has anything to offer you. And once the light bulb comes on, then you realize, yeah, no, actually, no, that I don't need it. And it's not doing what it says on the tin kind of thing. And yeah, and it's such it can be a real light bulb moment. What was the most surprising part of the path for you while you were doing that? How long was the path when you did it? Was it for the whole year or?
I did a year. But I can speak to your point is that I don't think I would have done it if somebody told me I had to stop drinking day one.
No.
I would not have done it. So the most surprising part was that I was told while you're learning and while you're drinking, and if you're paying attention to this, that there will be a switch. There's this little switch that occurs, and you'll start to feel like alcohol is small and irrelevant. And I was surprised by that because it did happen. And like I said, it happened earlier than I thought it would. And I knew it was there. I just didn't. I'm like, nope, I'm going to keep going. Although I was drinking less. But I do want to say that that's another reason why this approach really works is that you are not telling people that you cannot have alcohol, because once you do that, they start using their willpower. And we know willpower is not, it works for a little bit, but it doesn't work in changing those neural pathways. So it's just so important for people to actually do the work and to look at the reasoning behind the alcohol. And that full year, those first 30, 70 days for me was very focused on alcohol and my thoughts behind it. But after that, there was a lot of self-work and a lot of deep work and work that while I was drinking, I couldn't have done. So it was just great to be able to do a deep dive into some of the things that had been going on with me that I hadn't addressed.
Absolutely. Two things really stand out to me. First, it was all about the switch. And I think that there is a light bulb moment like Barry suggested in a switch. But maybe to begin with the switches in the dark and you find it. And then for the work that you continue to do, for the end of it, or when you get deeper into it, it's like one of these big, massive emergency stop buttons. It's big, and there is no part of you that feels compelled to drink because all of the reasons why you don't want to drink just become so much greater, and they put for you in place that stop. And the second thing I wanted to talk about is you spoke about coming from a scientific background and the incredible research that's been done in this work, particularly around the science of why we drink. But married with that, nestled up against it, is the techniques we use around emotion-based belief. Unless we really feel that it's the right thing to do something different, that change won't take place. No, I just wanted to ask you, because some of the people listening to this might just deep in the alcohol story still and going, all very well for you, but you don't have the feelings that I had. You don't know what it feels like to feel like I do. So if you will, and if you don't mind sharing some of the feelings that you were living with daily before you stopped, and then maybe what the feeling tone is now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I felt really discouraged. You couldn't have told me that I would have been here before I started. There's no way. I thought there's nothing that's going to help me at this point. And I felt really discouraged. I was extremely overwhelmed and stressed in my job and burned out from my job, which honestly, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize I had burnout until I did, which was later on. But I felt discouraged. I would get up every morning and say, I'm not going to drink today or this evening, right? So my drinking would start in the evening after work. So I'd get up in the morning and have great intentions. I'd eat well all day long. I'd go exercise. I'd do all these wonderful things. And then 5 o'clock came and I just could not help myself no matter what. There were no breaks. Just no breaks. And excuse me. And I just thought to myself, it was just this cycle. Like, how am I going to break this cycle? I just don't think it's going to happen. And it did happen. And I do tell people, if I can do it, and you hear this all the time, but it's so true. If I can do it, I've been there. I've been in the trenches. I felt like crap at 3 a.m. I've woken up with a headache. I've gone through my day like really foggy and just feeling like crap and over again. But I was able to get out on the other side, and it feels incredible. And I didn't think I would be able to do this. And I don't want to say it was easy, but I also don't want to say it was hard. I put the work into it. So I do believe that you do have to really put the work into it, meaning pay attention to, if you're currently drinking, paying attention to what you're doing, being aware of how you're feeling. And sometimes that can be really scary for people, actually feeling their feelings, but starting to be aware of how you're feeling and then really setting that goal. Where do you want to be? Because you can get there. It's possible.
That's so, it feels, yeah, that I'm back there and thinking at how I thought in the sort of lead up to trying to stop. I just thought, oh, the only good part of the day is the part where I get to have a drink, and how am I going to have fun? How am I going to enjoy anything? How am I going to socialize without it? It all seems so undoable. And until you try it, and like you said, it isn't easy, but it also isn't hard. It also isn't as hard as you expect it will be. And if you can keep in the back of your mind that maybe it is an illusion. And the work, when you hear, oh God, it's hard work, but the work is actually just because on so many different levels, we are sold the idea that the alcohol is helping us. You need to, on all those levels, you need to question them and just unpick them. And it's every situation, every reason, every trigger that gets you to reach for a drink. You need to bring it up to the surface and debunk it one by one. And, that's what the work is, just being curious and questioning the reasons society or yourself have told yourselves over the years as to why a drink seems important. And when you question it, you can, with the help of science and with the help of modern psychology, you can see through the illusions that we've been sold over the years, and it's really empowering because just each time you question it and each time you try an event without alcohol, you realize it's much more doable than you thought it would be, and the next time things become easier. But yeah, work, and it takes time and repetitions, but it's really rewarding, and freedom is there on the far side, and it's not, you're not looking over your shoulder worrying, will I ever drink again? Because you've got no desire. You're not missing anything. And that's the thing that it takes away, is the desire rather than the opportunity. And yeah, how has it affected your life since? Are you still doing the same sort of work? Or?
Yeah, it's been absolutely incredible work. So I work as a death investigator, a medical legal death investigator, and I love my work, and I always have, but I found it's a new freedom, really. I set boundaries at work and did some things that I probably would not have done before. So I've really been careful to protect myself, meaning that not available all the time. I work the hours instead of 24/7. And so I found my voice again. I found what's important to me. I put myself first and really focused on what is best for me, because when I support myself, I can support others. But I really needed to focus on my health, my well-being, my mental health, all of that. And so what I found is work is great, and I'm happy, and I'm not stressed out, and I'm not burnt out. I have a great relationship with my husband. We now communicate like we used to, and we're both present for each other now where we weren't. We were both not present. We both numbed ourselves. He's retired now, but was a police officer. You can imagine the two of us coming home really stressed. And now we just have a great relationship, and that interaction is back, and we're both present. I'm more present with my family. I'm more aware of just everything around me and just taking the time out. So it's been wonderful.
I can't agree more about the surprise of freeing yourself from alcohol is so much more than just freeing yourself from the substance. Because you're not You're able to look after yourself. You can't put yourself in the driver's seat if there is a substance in the driver's seat. Coming at 5 o'clock every night, whatever you do, get the hell to that fridge as fast as you can and get that wine in so that you can actually start your evening. If we're beholden to a substance or an idea or a food, then we're not free. And what you're speaking to there is the freedom from the substance, creating this vast person spaciousness in life, and the ability to really nourish yourself in a way that maybe society thinks is selfish to put yourself first. But for me to be able to reach out and help you and others and the world, I firmly and strongly use the time that I did drinking to sauna, exercise, eat well, all of those other things, constantly enriching rather than depleting myself. We don't realize we've been hoodwinked. We think that we are relaxing us, but we're just losing ourselves terribly. Go into any more of the science here, but the fact that you spoke on burnouts, and you were a broken person that was unable to say no to alcohol. You were in an alcohol-induced burnout state that was making you repeat that cycle. It's clear to us now, look at it from the outside looking in, but yes, from the outside looking back. But in the moment, you feel powerless and embarrassed. And how could someone that's a death investigator with such an important kind of role in this world be beholden to something else? Heading towards the time in our podcast, we'd like to ask you about, are there 3 words that resonate with you about your journey, this work, where you're headed?
Yeah, it's so clear to me. So freedom, joy, and happiness, which are things that I did not feel while alcohol was in my life. And I feel them so strongly now. It's really incredible. Every day I'm just so happy and grateful to not have alcohol in my life and to experience those, especially joy again.
That's beautiful. I think that's something that could inspire a lot of people. Yeah, that happiness, joy, and freedom. That sounds like the recipe for a good life. Yeah, I think I can resonate with all of that. And I think one thing that struck me was that what I realized that I was missing was, in the same way that you say, standing up for yourself and being able to set boundaries. And I'd lost my confidence altogether, and I was running to try and make sure that people couldn't see I was dropping the ball, or that I wasn't just pushing and pushing, and in the end pushing yourself to the back of the queue. And I think that was a real surprise for me as well. So that's great. Tell us where people can find you and the sort of people you're looking to help in your coaching practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I coach professional women, and I also have a signature program which is called Balance Beyond Badges. And that program is for first and last responders, so EMS, law enforcement, death investigators, folks that work in high risk positions for mental health and really high stress 24/7, just never able to slow down. So I work with that group as well. And my website is freespiritsaf.com. So you can find me there. And those programs are there as well. So I do one-on-one coaching, and I do also offer group coaching.
Great. We'll make sure that goes into the show notes so people will be able to find your website and the handles for social media. Great. Thanks very much. It's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Lori. I love talking with you, and it just reminds me deeply of what it feels like to be in this best place, and also reminds me that there is hope, because once you've found the material, and as you say, you dedicate some time for the material, you can't unlearn that. And right past this is there. Each time you practice this new skill of saying no, for this new skill of saying yes to your smell, I actually keep having pinching moments moving to New Zealand here. because I literally kept throwing all the cards up in the air. And people go to me, surely you must be finding it really difficult being in New Zealand as opposed to living in London. And I'm like, about 3 years ago, I moved house. I moved from up here into my heart. And
Oh, I love that.
I put myself in the driving seat. I choose to connect with people that I feel that will also speak to me from that place. Barry, a dear friend of mine, and we're absolutely open with one another. And it's been the most wonderful thing to share our journey together with this business. And then Lori, you, and for all of the other fellow coaches and all the people that I'm meeting through this now ability to speak through a heart space, because it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not having to. Why is it that alcohol just also, it seriously just makes us feel that we lose our confidence, that we're not enough? Yes, aside all the other stuff, aside everything else, why does it make us play so small, Lori?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you talk about feeling like from your heart space, I couldn't feel that. There was so much that was just shut down that you just can't have those connections in that feeling because the alcohol is just right in the middle of it all. And I think that's such a huge part of it, is it runs interference basically to everything, to every aspect of our life. It just runs interference. And so you can't reach those deep spaces that you've had. And I look back on a lot of my journey, which in my early 20s, I had some really deep, kind of like this, really deep connections with people. We connected on so many different levels, and it was just wonderful. And then we went away and had our own lives, children and all of that. But then add alcohol back into that. I never found that again, that connection again with people until I stopped drinking. And now it's okay, I'm open to those relationships and to those people, right? When you're open and you have an open heart, it just draws people to you and vice versa. Yeah.
I think that's powerful. I think because it's easy to regret everything and demonize everything about alcohol. And when we first started as youngsters, the downsides, I think I've said it before, when you're 20 and made of magic and rubber, you recover immediately, and it doesn't have the sort of lasting detrimental effects. And maybe you aren't drinking every day, and maybe you are drinking just for fun and not for stress. And but I've got a feeling that, that Justine was talking about what is it about your 40s? I think at some point you just outgrow it. And a lot of people do outgrow it, and it just doesn't serve you anymore. And it feels like you're having to let go of something that, an old pair of whatever that you used to love. And it feels scary that you might never find something to replace it. But yeah, if anybody's still thinking about that, do I dare to give it a try? This methodology where you can just learn to let go, and without actually having to let go, it's really powerful. Yeah, that the idea that you're shown the illusion and it just becomes easier and easier, and before you know it, you don't feel like it. It's it is. I would never have I put off going to. I never even considered going to a 12-step program, and sitting in a room and saying I'm an alcoholic, because I never felt like an alcoholic. I like that word and all the stigma and all that kind of stuff. And it just, I knew I drank too much, but there were people around me drinking more. So I should just need to get a grip on it and be better at it and let it just not have those last couple and all that kind of stuff. And you beat yourself up for it. And I just wish I knew there was a way, another way of finding freedom than the traditional method, which always seems so unattractive.
And I think
You go ahead, Lori.
No, I was just going to say, and I think that's why people don't feel comfortable doing like a 12-step program, because just exactly for what you said, that's how I felt as well. There's no way I didn't think I was an alcoholic. I didn't want to label myself. There's no way I would have done that. So I think it closes the door for so many people to actually get the help that they need or the assistance, whatever they're doing. I think this opens a door for so many people to be able to step into it because it meets them where they're at.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't shame them. And that's huge. Just not, they already feel shameful, right?
Yeah. you often, I've heard of people being turned away from 12-step programs because they're not bad enough. And you always have to be prepared to say, I'm useless, I'm broken, I need to be saved kind of thing. And a lot of people like the idea of actually, like you said, a sort of scientific approach, and you want to understand it. You want to be able to fix this yourself. And this methodology will allow you to work. It will empower you rather than make you feel like you need to say, I'm powerless and I'm the broken one and I can't handle alcohol. It's more actually, alcohol is this addictive stuff, and it'll make everybody addicted if you do it frequently enough. And
It's just, we do need to wrap this up, but it's almost like an utter departure from how we used to stop drinking. What it's like instead is having the utter freedom to mentally go skinny dipping mentally. Like we literally take all of the things that were making us feel embarrassed and ashamed about ourselves, and it gives us that freedom to just throw it all off, walk into new water, and start again.
Yeah, I love that.